Good day and welcome to the inaugural edition of Metron's podcast series, Round the Water Table, your source for utility and real estate water resource management knowledge. My name's Nick Bettis, the Vice President of Marketing for Metron, a leading provider of best-in-class water infrastructure and analytics to utility and real estate companies. With more than 30 years' experience helping utility manufactured housing properties and commercial facilities better understand, manage, and bill their water resources, Metron is uniquely qualified to leverage both our own team as well as our relationships with industry thought leaders to provide insightful, concise information that will help you manage water better. Today, we're joined by Caroline Scram, Senior Account Manager for Metron, and we're discussing the topic of how to optimize water management for the manufactured housing and multifamily housing sectors. Welcome, Caroline.
Thank you.
Great. Caroline, we're going to be talking about submetering in this podcast. Just give us the basics of what is submetering.
Yeah, so essentially, the city, they put their own meter in regardless of the property type. So speaking about an apartment complex or a manufactured housing community, they have one meter for the whole property, and they're going to bill you off of that one meter. Now, what you as the owner can do is you can install your own hardware, a meter, and sub-meter off of that one city meter. And the city, quite frankly, doesn't care what happens past their meter. So as far as leaks and major problems, that's your problem, not theirs. So it's important for you to install sub-meters anywhere you can in the property to make sure you're keeping up with the property and protecting it insurance-wise. And most importantly, you own that data. But you can put it unit by unit and you install a meter and break it down by the unit, or in zones and you can break it down by building or on each irrigation line, and then anywhere else, a pool. All of that is submetering.
For our listeners that may not be familiar with how MHP and multifamily properties typically bill water, give us some of the more common ways that they handle that.
Sure. Well, there's always the option to not bill. We see that, a lot of people do this. We also see that people can bill a flat fee. Typically, the way this works is they'll take the last 12 months, 6 months of water bills and give you a rough estimate for what's best. Usually it's around $30-$40 per month.
Okay.
The next way we see is going to be called RUBS. This is ratio utility billing, and you're going to take a formula, how big the unit or the pad is, how many people live there, and then you're going to divide that by the total water costs. So obviously, the more people that live there, the larger the home, the more you're going to pay. Now, keep in mind with this method, you're also going to pay for the common spaces. So they will divide every cent of the water bill to make you, recoup the full cost. Okay. We also see submetering as an option. This is when you put a meter at each individual unit or home, and then you'll bill based on the exact usage for each pad or unit. Same thing applies to direct utility billing, but the utility is the one that does the billing and collections for the park owner or the multifamily property owner.
But those are still submetered in that case?
Correct, yes.
Great. Okay, great. And so what are some of the advantages and disadvantages to each of those types of methods?
Yeah. So obviously no billing, lack of administrative work is going to be the pro there. You don't have to do anything. You assume that charge. Your tenants, they might think of it as a deal. It's all included in rent. The cons are going to be that you're going to increase your NOI, and your property value is not going to be as high. As far as flat fee billing goes, you're going to recoup some of the water bill, and so that's a benefit for you. The downside is we see that most of the time, you're not going to recapture up to the full extent of the water bill. We're in 2025. Water rates are rising, and they're increasing fast.
Yeah, all the time.
Yes. We see that in the last 5 years, water bills for every home have gone up about 24%.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it's the fastest growing utility out there these days.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes. And so the flat fee does not it doesn't cover that rising utility cost year over year. We're also seeing that in the next 10 years, the water rates should go up about 7 to 11% per home annually. So this is going to be pretty major, and that's the con of doing flat fee billing. As far as rubs, you're going to recapture that full water bill, yes, but we see a lot of legal pushback and restrictions on being able to bill back common area spaces. It's not equitable, and many tenants are pushing back. So yes, it's going to be a cheap method to implement, but no, it's highly regulated right now, and we're seeing that it's trending down.
What do you mean by equitable? Explain that to our group.
Equitable means what's fair to bill. So, when we think about billing utilities, I personally live in a single family home. So I'm billed for every shower I take, every dishwasher I run, and it seems fair because it's my actions. When it comes to rubs, I'm not necessarily paying for my individual use. I'm paying what the owner deems is fair based on their formula. And so we can't really call it equitable.
So in short, if you've got a mobile home park, for example, or a manufactured housing park, and you've got one family that's a family of 7 with 6 kids that take showers every day, and then you've got another pad or home that's a retired lady that it doesn't shower as often, doesn't wash her car.
Yep.
Then they're getting billed the same amount of money for their water, despite the fact that she's using a small fraction of it. So that's the equity of the society. Great.
And as far as rubs is concerned, you're never going to know where your leaks are coming from. There's no infrastructure or hardware at each home to tell you what's going on, which leads me to submetering. The obvious pro there is going to be leak detection that you get at each pad or unit site. The other benefit is it's a really equitable way to bill. Like a single family home, like where I live, they're paying for exactly their use. There is the added benefit that it helps incentivize conservation. When tenants see what they're using, they're going to fix leaks quicker, and they're going to decrease their consumption. We typically see between 20 to 30%.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Great. Anything else on that?
I mean, I would say as far as direct city billing, it's the gold standard, what everybody prefers. The pro is there. You don't have to deal with any of that. It's like submetering, but you don't have to put any hardware in yourself. However, utilities make you pay all of that upfront cost. Typically, it's going to be, $600 to $700 per pad for install and meter alone, and that's a heavy cost to get that installed. So while it's amazing to have it, it's highly expensive to get it installed.
And as a side note, Metron also sells to utilities. In a lot of cases, those submeters are still going to be our meters. And that actually opens up an opportunity, even if it is managed by the city, we can still provide that information, leak detection information and such to those residents as well. So, okay, great. So Carolyn, are there any other areas of usage other than standard consumption in a unit that we should be monitoring?
Yeah, plenty. You should always monitor your city meter. We have massive issues, especially in a mobile home park. Most were built pre-2000s, and their infrastructure is extremely old, and you should always be monitoring that. What happens when you get infrastructure leaks is it's going to just leak down into the dirt. Sometimes it will bubble up into the surface. It's not common. People, when they don't monitor this, that's the best way they're able to see if a leak is happening is when it goes to the surface. But what you don't think about is when something is leaking in the infrastructure, it's not going down the drain to the sewer. However, the city doesn't know that, so they're going to charge you for sewer regardless. The same thing applies to irrigation lines. Again, they don't know if it's not metered that it's not going down the sewer. So you can take all of this data back to the city and apply for sewer credits. Most cities are very willing to give you that if you give them the correct data and prove your case.
Right. You don't have that unless you've got those submeters in
Exactly.
place. So,
yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, let's move on then. So let's talk about regulations and legal issues that are out there. How do those impact all of the different types of things we've talked about here?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of trends, and I touched on this briefly before. We're seeing a lot of regulations around RUBS and flat fee billing and how equitable and fair is it for your tenants. A lot more tenant protections are coming in, and we see that submetering is becoming more favorable when it comes to regulations. So RUBS, we saw that in Connecticut, we're no longer allowed to do that method. So you either have to submeter or eat the full cost. We saw in Texas that you're not able to bill a flat fee to RV parks anymore. You have to either submeter or eat the cost. As far as regulation goes for submetering, we saw that in Minnesota, you're now able to submeter after a long time of not being allowed to. There are some rules with this method in Minnesota. You do have to give a 90-day grace period. And you will have to provide sample bills to your tenants. They won't be able to pay, but this will give them a quick glance at what can I expect after 90 days. And you have to have the submeters installed by a licensed plumber. We also see that in California, there's strict regulations about what type of meters you can have. They have to be NTEP certified. When they're shipped out to the owner, they have to go through weights and measures and be inspected. And then they have to be installed by a licensed plumber as well.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk a little bit about insurance. Is there any insurance benefits to both the tenants as well as the property owners for doing submetering?
In short, yes, on both sides, for the owner and for the tenants. Water damage is the leading claim for insurance, and so insurance really wants to see that you have some method to prevent this from happening. Metron, we do emergency leak detection, and most meters, there is some sort of leak detection. They love to see that. And when you bring in the leak detection aspect, they typically will discount your insurance premium, both on the ownership side and the tenant side. So it's kind of a win-win there.
Nice. All right, let's talk more about leak detection. That seems to be a real advantage to submetering here. So tell us a little bit about what kind of leaks can be identified, where those are, and what kind of savings people could actually get by putting in submeters.
Yeah, so there's the obvious, at each meter, there is leak detection. Now, this depends on how often a meter reads. Is it once a day? Is it once an hour? At Metron, we do minute-by-minute analytics. So that gives you, spikes of usage, and we can pick up on anomalies, as in when a leak starts, if it's a toilet flapper, is it a sink that's been left on, anything like that, a pipe that's burst under a unit or in a unit. And it's highly important to have that. I see toilet flappers every single day in my clients' properties. They're more common than you think. But what's not well known is how many gallons and how much money they cost.
Yeah, it is amazing.
Yeah. We typically see that these leaks could cost you between, a few $100 to $1,000 a month. So it's important to be notified as soon as those start. And again, like I said, we can decrease each unit's consumption by about 30%. A lot of that is from the leaks that they don't know are happening. And on the owner side, we can put a meter around the master meter, or what we call it a master meter, but it is the city meter, and tell you what's going on in your infrastructure, what's making it to each pad or unit and what's not. Anything that is not, we typically see is just going down the drain or into the dirt, and it's leaking constantly. So we're able to notify of those leaks as well.
Yeah, and those can be massive too. We're seeing
massive.
Some of our customers are seeing 30-40% water loss that they didn't even know they had, which equates to thousands of dollars a month that they're losing with no idea. And it's not just the water; it's going right into the sewer, so you're paying sewer costs associated with that as well. So it's quite impressive. So
and with those leaks, most of the time they're undetectable. Historically, the method that has been used to find infrastructure leaks is wait until it bubbles up to the surface. When do we get a puddle or water running over the road? Well, not every leak is going to do that. And so you find out in your next water bill, whether it be monthly or quarterly, and it's really hard to find that. Now we have a way to notify you within a day. If you see that spike, we will notify you as it happens.
Right. Yeah. So with that's where the 1 minute data comes into play, right?
Yep.
It's amazing how much damage can be done in a multi-story apartment building with just a few minutes. My daughter actually had
Yep.
a washing machine that broke a pipe, and it cost her $30,000. Well, it cost the insurance company $30,000, but
Holy
yeah,
moly.
yeah, for just one load of laundry. So
Ouch.
yeah, and we would have known that within a minute if that was going on. So. All right, great. So if submetering does seem like the right fit for one of our listeners, what kinds of features should they be looking for going forward?
Yeah. I am a metering expert, and many people are not, and nor do they care to be. But there are some really important features to look out for. The first thing I always say on the hardware side, look for a meter that is utility grade. This meter is going to ensure accuracy, and it's going to be durable, and it has third-party testing and internal testing to ensure you're getting a quality meter. Now, when it comes to the meter and the hardware as well, I recommend getting a meter that is a true cellular meter. This means no repeaters, no gateways are needed. Any added hardware or infrastructure you require with a meter means more maintenance and more room for failure. So go with current technology. Everybody always likes to update to the new iPhone. I say do the same thing with meters. Stay up to date because it's going to give you the best technology and the best features to manage your property. Now, on the software side, first and foremost, I always recommend you get a meter with software. There are options to do manual read meters or drive-by systems. It's a little archaic, and I, again, say stay with the times and get the software with it. When it comes to the software, you want to look for something that has the leak detection and reads more than once a day with their data. When you get once a day analytics, all you're going to get is a simple bar chart. You can't really see much with that.
Makes sense.
The last thing you really want to get is something that integrates with your billing or your property software. This eliminates a lot of administration work on your part, and it will help you ease the burden as you transition from either a flat fee or no billing over to submetering. It's a hands-off process for you.
What about on the alert side?
Yeah. So we talked about leak detection. That's pretty obviously crucial for your property. I always recommend you get a meter that will notify you of temperatures as well. So when a meter, it can either take the temperature ambiently or internally of the water. And I recommend that you do one that the meter takes the temperature at the meter site, not at a receiver 5 feet away and telling you you've got a cold temperature 5 feet away. You want something that's going to notify you right at the meter. At Metron, we have both options. We have ambient temperature meters and we have internal water temperature meters. I always recommend you get that, especially if you're in a cold weather state and the meters are going outside.
Right. Great. Okay, so Caroline, how are these submeters? How are they typically purchased? Is the customer responsible for installing those, or how does that usually work in the marketplace?
Yeah, well, you can always buy them outright, and then typically you have to find your own installer, or if the company offers, then you can do it that way. Metron and other companies, I'm seeing a trend where submetering is becoming a service, and what that means is it's a low CapEx spend on the front end. There is a low fee and then there's a monthly recurring fee. Now, what that gets you is it gets you a software platform to go alongside your meters. You no longer have to manually read them. And then you can see a lot more data than you would if you bought the meters outright. We typically come in and install for you. It's an end-to-end full service. We'll train you on the system, and we give you lots of reports along the way, whether it be billing reports or just general reports on, hey, this unit seems to have an abnormality. And that's really the benefit of going with it as a service. We don't want you to be the water expert. We want to be the water expert and help you maintain your property better.
Yeah, and we can even monitor that property for our customers and let them know if they have an emergency leak, for example.
Absolutely.
In case they are not paying attention at a given moment or out of cellular range for their alert, we can contact you via email or text messages or phone calls or whatever.
Yep.
And make sure that's taken care of quickly.
Yep.
All right. Anything else you have on your mind today?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, that's all the questions that I had. So with that, we're going to wrap up our inaugural edition of our podcast, and we will see you next time when we come together around the water table.